Good evening, everybody. This meeting was already called to order, thank you. At 6:30 PM, the council went into closed session to discuss litigation and public safety matters. Laura, can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Koch,
Here.
Mr. Carnaval,
Here.
Mr. Staff,
Here.
Mr. Tashian,
Here.
Mr. Kern,
Here.
Mr. Gullo,
Here.
Ms. Sarah.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Kern, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. First order of business on tonight's agenda is a presentation by our Environmental Beautification Committee recognizing Lauren Zenrich for her mural project at the what used to be the old U-Save gas station. I was provided a little bit of a background, and I'll share it before I invite Tom and everybody to come up. And Tom, is that okay, or am I stealing your remarks? Okay. Lauren and her husband Alan have been residents of Oradell for over 35 years, during which they raised their two sons, Scott, an actor, director, and playwright who now lives in Seattle, and Joshua, a project manager for oncology clinical trials at HUMC. Lauren has been a lifelong lover of the arts and describes her and Alan as makers that do everything from photography and working on plays at the theater to creating jewelry, wood turning, painting, drawing, stained glass, and now with lasers to make our creations. Lauren has been the head of decor for over 50 shows at Bergen County Players. She recently decorated the set for A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Very nicely done. That was a wonderful show. And is about to start on their holiday show, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. A little background on the project. In 2019, members of the Oradell Environmental and Beautification Committee had an idea to help beautify a vacant gas station site in town, which had stood vacant for over 2 decades, while undergoing remediation. Once given the okay by the owner, the committee approached David Luke, then president of Bergen County Players, about installing artwork on the 3 roll-up doors of the building. Lauren, who has been decorating sets for Bergen County Players for 24 years, was asked to lead the charge. And working with the committee, Lauren designed postcards, quote unquote, of the town, highlighting some of the buildings and things that make Oradell unique and a great place to live. Lauren laid out each of the 3 8x8 mural designs, which then had to be cut in quarters to allow the doors to still function. And to get the community involved, she created a paint-by-number layout so that student artists and residents could be part of the painting process during the Oradell Fall into the Arts Festival in October of 2022. Lauren then detailed all of the artwork so that it was ready to be installed the next spring. And on May 6th in 2023, the murals were unveiled to the public during a presentation and reception. Also presented and shown that day was Lauren's husband Alan's documentary of the process from start to finish. So Tom, I'd welcome you and Kathy and others up. I know you have a presentation to make to Lauren to thank her for her efforts on this project.
Good evening, Mayor, and thanks for having us here. This has been quite a long time coming, and maybe some of the other members of the committee can come up. You did a great job of summarizing the history of it. This committee, the former chairman and the current chairperson, is tasked with helping to make our downtown and our town beautiful, and that's exactly where this idea came from us brainstorming, whether it's putting up the cornstalks this past week that all of these folks did, and the beautiful bows, et cetera. That property, obviously, as you mentioned, has been kind of blighted for decades since I've been in town, and that was it. We kind of started the idea first to put flowers or anything like that there, and then murals came up, and it was really just a wonderful community event. I believe Mr. Trips has reached out to the Bergen County Players, and hence our own unbelievable talented folks here, Lauren and her husband and her team, and it just really snowballed into a really great, wonderful event. The owner couldn't have been more amenable. He inherited 2 gas stations, one in Asbury Park and this one here. So he's let us have Rotary food drives there, and he's happy, I think. I'm not sure exactly the status of the remediation over there, but to get that thing moving. But I can't say enough. Again, once that happened, I stepped back and let the creative people took over, and I think Lauren can speak to that. It's just really incredible. She brought in the Girl Scouts and the kids and, just paint by numbers, and to see that thing from start to finish, construction people, and just a wonderful, wonderful event. And I'm glad they're still here while this work is going on. So it's really salute to these guys. And it was really, as Mr. Tripp mentioned, probably almost 10 years start to finish brainstorming. So to see it come to fruition is awesome. So thanks again to Alan and to Lauren, and maybe Lauren could tell you how some
Do I
other
wanna say
issues.
a
But
few-
yeah, we need to honor her. I'm glad that we're here.
I want to say a few words. Okay. I really appreciate the recognition of the Oradell postcard murals, and I want to thank the Mayor and Council and the Oradell Environmental Beautification Committee for recognizing our labor of love, and it certainly was. Even though the murals were my concept, they could not have been done without the help of some very special people, especially Sam Tripsis and Tom Weiner, who went above and beyond to make these murals a reality. They even made me a really big easel, which was unbelievable. I also want to thank my bestie, Katie Scher, who is with me every step of the way and learned to paint, even though she protested a lot. Thanks to Tom Kelly, Margaret Denicola, who also did a lot of drawing for me, Diane Danielle, David Luke, and the Bergen County Players who put me up for this wonderful creative adventure. And thanks to everyone I missed and who worked with my paint by numbers set. I usually do that at the theater when I have some flats to paint, and everybody owns the set, which is wonderful, which means the community came out and they did this wonderful drawings for paintings for me within the lines. I did coloring books, and it was paint by number set, and everybody felt like they owned it. And when they passed, even when they came for the unveiling, one of the little boys who painted the lion said, I did that, that was me. And it was just wonderful. So it takes a village, and I love Oradell. Finally, to my husband, Alan, who helped me in so many ways and was always very supportive, even though I spent a lot of time at the senior center painting. But he should know that by now, since I do a lot of sets. And at some point, we are going to have a presentation at the library to show you exactly how this was done and how much that took. But I'm very proud of all of us, and that's it. Thank you again, and I really appreciate it. So what do we do? Okay. I'm talking to the mic.
He's working. Okay. This is presented to Lauren Zenwright. Your paintbrush transformed a tired canvas into a colorful landscape for all to enjoy. Oradell Beautification Committee, 2024.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Katie, Alan? Oh,
Could you see one thing? Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Just to add,
Just,
this idea started in 2008, and we had the ambition, but we never had an artist. And when we knocked on Bergen County Players' door, Lauren was there, and she was really the missing piece. So it's just unfortunate it took so many years, but it's
May I suggest you all come up here and get the photograph from the audience? There's more room to have a nice setting. Marguerite and everybody come up here, Danielle. You know, cluster up here. I'm a director, it's hard not to direct.
Snuggling for a long time.
Another one. 3, 2, 1. And last one.
hold it. Definitely. Congratulations, it's wonderful.
It's nice.
Yeah, I just want to say, as a resident and also as a council person, it's a delight. Every time I drive by it, I say thank you to everybody involved and Lauren for designing it.
Okay. We have any discussion items before the council tonight? I guess I'll talk about the signs here versus new business, because it's really not new business. So, one of the things I wanted to address tonight is, of course, it is, as some deem quote-unquote silly season, which is the annual quest for elective office. And I wanted to just talk about something tonight to make clear where the borough stands on something and give a little bit of history on political signage in the borough. Certainly a free speech right and an ability to support candidates for office without people running for office and having choices. This is the backbone of our democracy. So it's a great thing to see people supporting candidates that they believe in. But we've gotten some complaints recently about signage placed on public property versus private property. And I wanted to touch on this to be clear, that the borough currently has no ordinance that governs the placement of political signage on public property. It is certainly a property owner's right to place a sign on their lawn as they see fit. But some of the questions we got concerned public property, parks, right-of-ways along the streets, and so forth, that may not be considered quote-unquote private. So the only way for, and Bill, you fill in where I may leave a void, the only way for the borough to govern that, which we do allegedly have some limited ability to govern the placement of signage on public property, is by the council adopting an ordinance governing such within allowable law. So if the council feels so inclined at a point in time in the future, that is something that we can take up and we can work on and we can have in place for a future cycle. But I did want to say publicly that if people see what may look like more signs around town than usual, it's allowed. We don't have laws that say you can't do it. For full transparency, in the past, there have been what I'll call gentle persons agreements between the campaigns about when they would put signs out, when they would take them back, where they would put them. That does not seem to be in play this year. So it is what it is when you see it out there. And I just wanted to be clear so everybody had the information. Nobody's doing anything wrong. Yes, there's a divergence from past practice, but that's the choice of the candidates. And unless the council adopts an ordinance governing the placement, there's nothing we can do. So I just wanted to make that announcement out there in case there was confusion or inquiry about, people seeing things they've not normally seen in the past. That's where things are at. And Bill, is there anything else you want to add?
Just one thing, Mayor, people need to use discretion, because that's correct. We don't have any local regulation. Other municipalities do have ordinances, and they're strictly construed, and they have to be content neutral. And as you pointed out, if this body so chooses, that can be explored in the future. But you still can't create a safety issue. You can't impact sight lines, for example, at an intersection. If you're putting something in right away, you can't obstruct ingress and egress. And that applies to anything on public property. So that was the only thing I wanted to add, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Anybody in the council have anything they want to add to that, or a question?
I mean, the only thing this brings up is we should all vote in Oradell. This is an important election, and I just urge everyone to vote. Let's do 100%.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any old business before the council tonight? Seeing none, do we have any new business before the council tonight?
One quick thing, Mayor, for new business, and I think it would fall under admin and maybe even ordinance. But if we could take a look at our conflict of interest practices. And I know that we follow the MEL, correct, Bill, when it comes to that?
When it comes to personnel policies and procedures, yeah, the MEL,
With mayor and council.
right, the MEL, which Oradell's a member of, annually or every other year issues a recommended format, and Oradell did in fact, as do most of the 300 towns that are in the MEL, adopt their policy and procedures manual. But it's not to say it can't be looked at and, clarified, tweaked,
Yeah.
tightened up.
That's always a good practice, I think, to do. So, thank you.
As the chairman of both those committees, can you just provide a little more context in terms of your request?
Yeah, I just think that it's a good practice, I think, just to review it, make it current. In the past, sometimes there may not have been full transparency, so I think that it's just a good catch-up point at this point in time.
So I'd ask Bill if you could do a initial review and then provide some guidance back to the committee, whether it's admin or ordinance, so that we know exactly what it is we should be trying to tackle.
Will do.
Thank you.
Any other new business before the council? Okay, seeing none. I'll entertain a motion to open public comment for non-agenda items.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, meeting is now open for non-agenda items only.
Good evening, everyone. Paul Atsunas. I want to thank you, Mayor, for everything that you've been doing for the town and the rest of the council. And I know that we don't usually congratulate you, but you hit the road running. You really did a lot of stuff up to now, anyway. And I want to thank you for that. I want you to know it's appreciated.
Thank you, Paul.
Now, today I was at the library, and I was reading the Star Ledger, and they had the article about affordable housing, and that we were given the amount of units that we have to do. I understand that it said Montvale had something over 480-something units that they have to do. I don't know exactly what it is here. I have an idea of it might be 186 for us. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I just wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to know what the present what they said the present need was and what the prospective needs are. If somebody could say that either now or later. I understand there's 146,000 affordable housing units for all of the state of New Jersey. Now, I've been advocating no underground parking since 2017. It always it allows developers to build larger buildings and gives them more space to make a larger building because they're going to put the parking underneath the building. And this is something that I was always opposing. And the 420 Kinderkamack Road, the site of Bank of America, is asking for 44 units there, from what I understand. And I got to see the building rendering. It doesn't fit in Oradell. It is a city-structured building, and it could be placed in any city like Hackensack or any other big city. It's not Oradell, and requires variances and changes to our zoning and building landscape on it. It's a large version of the proposed 66 Kinderkamack Road project that was rejected by our residents and the zoning board twice. So it's a very similar thing. I just wanted to bring that up to your attention again. Now, on another note, Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan train robbers and murderers, are in Bergen County. And I want people to beware. And they are responsible for police murders in New York City. And we must deal aggressively with these people. And when the police stop you or anyone, you have to listen to the police because they're going to protect you. A lot of people don't want to listen, and that's how they get in trouble. You have to follow the instructions of the police. I just wanted to make that known. Now, we must also put an end to sanctuary cities and towns in order to protect us, preserve our sovereignty. We must preserve our sovereignty and vote accordingly to eliminate sanctuary cities and towns. We don't want a mandate on what kind of car we must have, and telling us what we must drive, and we want choice. To drive cars that work in the winter, cars that are affordable to purchase. We have to have our citizens first. Inflation needs to be corrected. Prices will come down with increasing energy production. Our senior citizens' retirement funds have been devastated by inflation. It has hit senior citizens dramatically. Whatever they had in the bank, their buying power. They've lost 30% of their buying power that they worked very hard in order to do that. And I just wanted this known, and please vote accordingly. And, that's all I have to say for tonight.
Thank you,
Thank you
Paul.
so much.
Anyone else for public comment on non-agenda items?
Maury Katzen, good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, town officials. Is this working?
Yes.
We good? Okay. I'll try to stick to my 5 minutes allowed time, even though I got a few items I want to talk to you about. Okay. Good evening. Good evening, Oradell residents. I am coming here today not as just a resident, of course, not as a candidate. I'm coming tonight here as a parent talking to Oradell parents of young children. The speaker before me in the past few weeks, I noticed that is talking about issues that have a national effect on all of us. And I want to talk of one of those that touches each and every one of us. And the timing couldn't be right. I'm talking about sugar consumption, and I'm doing it just before the trick-or-treating for Halloween. So like I said, I'm coming as a father, as a parent, talking to other parents. I was not aware, while my kids were young, about the devastating effect of overconsumption of sugary foods and sugar in general. Sugar is the source of all evils. And this year, every year before Halloween, the food corporations are pumping store shelves and aisles in all supermarkets in the cheapest of the cheapest treats that they can do, loading everything up in sugary treats just to have parents buy because it's so cheap. And then when I see kids trick-or-treating, I see them coming with their baskets and they keep on grabbing and grabbing and grabbing. And sometimes if I'm not home and I leave the basket of treats outside on my driveway, and I look in my camera, I see kids, and they coming and they take in bunch of treats. We're talking about thousands and thousands of calories, which those sugary treats are made of, anywhere between 60 to 75% sugar. And this is the age when kids are developing what is called insulin resistance. The more resistance we are to insulin, the longer we are going to live. And parents I'm asking parents today not to make the mistake that I did as a father and let my kids eat whatever they want, whenever they want during Halloween season. But please curb the amount of treats that you are giving your kids, and please make sure that they understand that sugar is not good for them. And this is the time of the year that they really, really need to pay attention to that, because next week is Halloween, and this is what they end up consuming. And I want to touch a little bit on the fact that this is not such a publicized subject And the reason is that because the big pharma and the food industries are controlling our media and controlling even our doctors, okay? And I don't have time to read Dwight D. Eisenhower 1961 farewell address where he warned about big corporations taking over our media, and the worse than that, our legislature, and they basically preventing them from protecting the public, which is what they were elected to do in the first place. So I go to my doctors I don't go often, every 2 or 3 years only. But when I do go, I've asked my doctors in recent years, why you never told me to reduce the amount of sugar I eat? He said, oh, it's known, it's everywhere, it's known. Well, it's not that known, and it does cause a lot of complications. So I'm asking parents tonight, parents of Oradell, please reduce the amount of sugar you're feeding your kids, okay? That is about this subject. Is that my 5 minutes? Okay. I'll just have a little quick note that in 12 days, I am organizing a group of runners from Oradell, hopefully, to run in Bergen County Hero 5K Run in Bergen County, in Paramus. And we are organizing a group that is called the Sergeant David Solinas Jr. Group, and we will be running on Sunday, November 3rd, to honor Sergeant David Solinas. And with that, I would like to remind the council that it's time to work on the honorary naming of street ordinance. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public care to comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close to the public.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, round two. Entertain a motion to open the public comment on the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Paul Atsunis. Resolution 24-247. I know that you're going to make this committee, and I'd like to have some more information about the committee and what will the Affordable Housing Committee do, what is its purpose, and what will it use for the preservation of our town and our culture.
I'll talk about it under my report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else for public comment on agenda items?
Motion to close public comment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Laura, can you read the correspondence into the record, please?
Sure. Number one is the monthly Oradell Police Report for September. Number two is the notice of variance for 420 Kindercamack Road. Number three is the response action outcome issued by Boswell Engineering regarding 2 Marginal Road. And number four is the monthly Oradell Fire Report for September.
Thank you. Before us tonight, we have the minutes of the meeting of September 10th, 2024. Does anyone have any corrections, additions, or note any omissions from the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting of September 10th, 2024.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
One abstain.
You abstain?
Yes.
Councilman, let the record show that Councilman Staff has abstained. On to the consent agenda. Before we move the consent agenda, does any member of the council wish to pull an item for further discussion, question, or issue? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, resolutions 24-243 through resolutions 24-247.
So moved.
Second.
Laura, roll call, please.
Mr. Carnaval?
Yes.
Mr. Staff?
Yes.
Mr. Tastian?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Mr. Gullo?
Yes.
Ms. Hare?
Yes.
Okay, on to committee reports. Mine's going to be very brief. I will just talk to Paul's question under his public comment for consent agenda. This Affordable Housing Committee, the members of which are listed in the resolution, is at the request of our special counsel to help coordinate the borough's response to our obligation from the council, from the planning board, and any other entities within the borough to ensure our compliance or response to state mandated required deadlines. And I believe it employs Mr. Sarunian, our special land use counsel, our planner, Caroline Ryder, planning board chairman Ed Flegging, council president Carnaval, myself, and administrator Hines. I think I've covered all the bases there. So that group will be making sure that the borough's response is coordinated and timely across our different entities to meet the state's requirements. I'm going to call it a night there. Sorry that we didn't see the Mets advance for a Subway Series, but there's always next year. Impressive. Council President Carnaval, Administration and Ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. The Ordinance Committee for the naming of public places draft ordinance we are working on. I have shared my comments with our borough attorney and fellow committee members. I would like to try and have this ordinance ready for introduction at the November 12th meeting, if that's possible. We've also begun to work on a project to amend our current parking ordinances to look at where in town it makes sense to limit parking to one side of the street. The chief and our traffic officers, Sergeant Pressburger, have completed a review of the current ordinances and have made recommendations to the committee. The administrative committee met earlier this evening to conduct interviews for the open recreation director position and have provided our initial feedback to the borough administrator. We will keep everyone posted on the continued hiring process. The planning board met on October 1st and approved one soil moving application. The next regular meeting of the board is scheduled for Monday, November 4th at 7:30 p.m. because Tuesday is Election Day. The zoning board met last evening and heard testimony on 3 applications, all of which will be carried over to the November meeting. The board also memorialized 4 resolutions. The next meeting of the board is scheduled for Monday, November 18th at 7:30 p.m. Bob McConnell of the Historical Committee, the chairman, reports the following. Joanne Young, the vice chair of the committee and a vocal advocate for the Blauvelt Mansion, formerly retired prior to moving out of town, and we want to thank Joanne for all of the great work she has done for this community. The committee is working out a plan for Images of America, Oradell, which would be published by Arcadia Publishing. To this end, we have established a subcommittee that will present our proposal to the mayor and council at a later date. The committee is organizing a presentation at the library commemorating the 60th anniversary of the 1964 New York World's Fair. And one other item, the architectural firm working on putting together an updated plan for the renovation of the train station has submitted several questions requiring our feedback, which we are in the process of completing. We remain on track to receive the new plans by the firm by the end of this year. Thank you, Mayor, and that's my report.
Thank you, Council President. Public Safety, Emergency Management, and Board of Health, Councilman Staff.
Thank you, Mayor. The Safe Streets program is underway, and Lieutenant Gangemi will be kicking off next week on October 30th. Very timely for Halloween the next day. It will be at 10 o'clock in the morning at Grant and Oradell Avenue, and the focus will be on public traffic safety. Halloween being next week, please be mindful and careful. Kids are going to be all over town, and Prospect, again, will be closed. Please put your lights on as it's getting darker earlier, and thank you for all your support. Our Kinderkamak Road corridor, lights were surveyed and the bulbs have been replaced. I'm in receipt today, Laura, of a letter from Bergen Catholic formally requesting their Class 3 officer, and I'll give this to you at the end of the meeting tonight. In health, the flu vaccine clinic, we had 20 shots in arms. Pet licensing time, reminder, we're back to an annual renewal. And on January 11th, we will be hosting a drive-through rabies clinic, and more to come on this. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Staff. Library Environment,
Could I ask a question? Sure. Councilman Staff? I've had a couple requests of people who've had trouble on the Kindercremack corridor slowing down or trying to stop for passengers crossing the street, for pedestrians crossing the street, and people zipping by on the right side, not even on the left side of passing. And I've actually observed one myself in the past week. I wonder if we could somehow have a conversation about what we could do more about that. I don't know, short of putting a glaring, flashing sign as you come into Oradell, do not pass when pedestrians are crossing the street, but it's quite serious and frightening. In one case, the woman that wrote about it talked about a family that luckily the mother pulled the kids back and the car went zipping by. So it's a continuing issue, and
Thank you.
I'm willing to help you in any way I can work on that issue.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for bringing that up. This happens more often than we care to admit. We are always looking at ways of traffic calming in town, particularly by the train station in the morning, because cars do tend to bypass by Veldren. And we're hoping that some of the programs that we have underway are gonna help calm the corridor down. So thank you for that.
Terrific, thank you.
Library Environmental Beautification and Limited Board of Education, Councilman Staff, Councilman Tashjian, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I unfortunately could not attend the library meeting last month because it was the same night as our meeting. So no update there. We are continuing to work through some of the issues with remediation and rebuilding. And so it continues. As you know, as I mentioned, as I mentioned in the last meeting, upon completion of the first remediation from the roof issue, we had a sprinkler issue that then required some additional remediation. So it continues with regards to the environmental and beautification. Everybody in town should have received the postcards with regards to the Partners in Energy program that's being done by Sustainable New Jersey. Please go to the website and sign up for your home energy audits. And at this time, the Economic Development Committee is looking to retrench and reorganize. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Tashjian. Finance and DPW, Councilman Kern.
All right, thanks. I'll do DPW first. First, I'll turn it over to our engineer.
Sure. I'll keep it brief. As everybody knows, the roadways have been completed by PSE&G. Thank you to all the residents for their patience as we worked through that 2-week shuffle of getting everything done. We'll look to get things geared up for the springtime when they come back to do the second round of paving restoration from the gas work. Also just want to update you, we did meet with the contractor for Prospect Avenue regarding the sidewalk issues. We're going to look to hold off on doing any repairs currently. We'll look to do it in the springtime after the winter has come, so we don't have to battle whether it was rock salt or whatever it may have been. So we had met with them. We're going to work everything out with them to get the concrete slabs replaced that have been damaged. I drove by this morning, or this afternoon. The brick pavers, for whatever reason, were halfway done as far as getting those couple tree wells filled in. So we'll be working with them to get them closed off as well. So
Thank you.
that's all I have to report.
Dave, can I ask a question if you don't mind?
Sure.
Any update on the BPU's approval of additional funds to continue the project? I know it's about the time we should be hearing.
Yeah, I have not heard any updates from them. I can reach out to them to see what's going on with their next round of programming, but I haven't heard anything as of yet.
Okay, thank you.
All right, to continue with DPW, we did not have a meeting as of yet this month, although I will schedule one soon for the end of this month, hopefully before our next meeting. The only pressing pressing item, I should say, is filling our vacancies for laborers. As a committee, we really need to put our heads together to find solutions for this matter. We're actually having a little difficulty trying to get somebody or get employees in for our team. Sometimes they basically, bow out last minute. That may be due to competition from other towns, and we're losing talent, to other towns because of this issue. That said, if anybody who is interested in joining our team for DPW, you can speak with our clerk's office to get info on how to answer our advertisements when they do come available. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to DPW for making it possible to have had a both amazing and successful Family Day / parade and a 5K race on Sunday. They're the first and last ones on the scene for these events, and they definitely show dedication to what they do, and we totally appreciate it. Moving on to finance. Finance department is still working on conciliation for the end of the year. As the head of our finance department, they do have to do conciliation and look at all the accounts and sum them up before the end of the year, before the end of the fiscal year closes. Today, council sat down with our previous auditor today in closed session to discuss last year's budget. That budget has been, the audit actually, I should say, has been passed today, so we'll sign off on that later, and there's a whole process to that. The budget itself received an unqualified opinion, but that's for only non-material items. There were two items in particular. One was in regards to an employee premium benefit that was on our books past that person's termination date. However, the discrepancy was partially retrieved, and basically, so that's being taken care of. The other item was regarding a recurring infrastructure expense that was incorrectly funded, or should have been funded, I should say, and was not correctly funded. These items will be remediated, and it is expected that there'll be an action plan taken, or I should say, devised by our finance chair, and that should be done later in the month. There were no other issues pertaining to the audit itself other than those. And I was reminded by our CFO in a discussion today that our department heads, just to remind our department heads for any equipment that might be up for auction. Usually at this time of year, we look at all our excess equipment that we might have in, either the police department or DPW, and maybe some other departments that we could place for auction to offset costs at the end of the year. I'd like to ask, anybody on council, if they do know of any excess equipment, to please bring that up to either our borough administrator or myself, and hopefully we can get that resolution on for next month. And lastly, I was notified about one tax sale, I should say, that we'll start to advertise in the proper channels. I don't think it was for much, but yeah, that will be advertised soon. And that's all I have.
I just had a quick question. Your comment on hiring people for the DPW, the last two employees that we passed the resolution on, are they still coming on board?
Yes.
Okay. So on top of those two that we just hired, there's still incremental needs?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Technology, Communications, and Fire, Councilman Gullo.
I do not have a report for technology or communications or special events or rec. We did not meet this past month just due to the October 6th event and have not been able to get a quorum for the other two committees. I would like to respectfully to the fire department mention two things. Number one is, John alluded to it, want to thank the fire department and all of their time and effort in producing last weekend's 5K. They really do coordinate and partner extremely well with the OK Kids Foundation. and are really, quote unquote, the backbone of that infrastructure to host that race. And it's a great celebration for the town, so I want to give them a special recognition. The second thing is, in spirit of their annual fundraising, just a reminder to residents that the mailer or a fundraising mailer for the fire department will be hitting households hopefully within the next week or so, and the fire department in advance thanks residents for their consideration. And that's it.
Thank you. Municipal Drug Alliance, Stigma Free, Ordell for All, and OPTV. Councilwoman Harrer.
Yes, thank you. The Municipal Drug Alliance Committee, Stigma Free Committee, and Ordell for All Committee are all committees that have to do with the quality of life and being supportive of Ordell citizens. We will be reconfiguring those committees in December. The mayor appoints, and I wanted to suggest that if anyone's interested in volunteering to be on any of these committees, please contact me. My Ordell address is mharrer@ordell.org. And there also is a volunteer form on the Ordell Borough website where you can fill it in and say that you're interested in that. I want to continue to compliment OPTV. They continue to give us good information, and the videos that they accomplished of the candidates for both school board and for council are very wonderful. And if you go on the borough website, you can access those by going down to the square that says OPTV and then click on the blue word that says video, and it'll take you to all of those videos. And for those who have questions about who's running and what their platforms are and what their ideas are, this is a really good source. So I want to thank OPTV for facilitating that, and Laura for helping make that happen, and for all the candidates who made themselves available to create those. That's my report.
I would have one request to your point about volunteers. I was going to speak about that next meeting, but I thank you for bringing it up now. My suggestion would be that those interested in volunteering for a committee complete that form.
Yes.
And email it to the clerk's attention.
Yes.
They should certainly copy you if you'd like them to, if it's a committee that you're in charge of, so you can help advocate for folks that you want to get on committees. But
Thank you. I didn't mean to jump the.
No, that's quite all right. But just so everybody's gets vetted and it gets recorded and we consider everybody through the process, we can never have enough volunteers. I just want to make sure that they all get logged in through Laura so that everybody gets consideration.
point.
Thank you. Mr. Hines, Administrator's report?
First, the Finance Department. Thank you. The Finance Department and Administration have successfully completed planning to introduce a flexible spending account for the employees in January. Many towns and corporations have that. What it allows a family to do is to allocate money up to $3,200, I believe, for justified medical expenses, tax-free. The hook, of course, is if you do not use that money, it reverts back. You don't get it back. You don't get the remainder. But you can choose any number between $100 to $3,200. So that will go into effect in January. In addition, we provide all our employees, cost-free to the employees, a dental program. So that's at borough cost. So both the Finance Department and Administration, with guidance from our insurance broker, put it out to bid. Presently, our dental insurer is Delta Dental. So we have been able to, in principle, have a program with MetLife, which will lower our costs. Presently, every employee gets up to a $1,000 benefit towards their costs. MetLife will provide us with $1,250 for our cost. So it's a win-win for the borough, because we're starting to think very seriously now about budget. Next Thursday, we have invited in our grants writer to meet with all our department heads to go over. They will tell us programs that they know are outstanding, and they're going to be looking for ideas from our department heads. Perhaps they should be more specific what exactly certain departments are looking for. We always believe free money is better than having to spend your own money. And We are also planning, the CFO and I, to meet with our department heads early next month to start planning for our budget. We're looking to begin earlier this year than we perhaps have in the past. And the chief financial officer will be sending a letter to the mayor and council with a broad overview of what she perceives the challenges will be in the year 2025. So that is my report, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I just had a quick question. Ed, did you also look at a health savings account, an HSA, which does not
We
expire?
specifically looked at the federal program.
Right. Do they not, does the federal,
Yeah.
at the federal, do they not offer an HSA?
Federal or not, these are two separate programs that allow employees to save for health care.
But they analyzed both, and I believe the FSA was the better one.
The HSA can also be had, and it's contributed to by the employee at their sole discretion.
Okay.
So
I'll
it's a
check that out.
pre-tax incentive for them to take money out of their check, put it into savings for health care up to a limit set by the IRS. But it's a totally voluntary program, and to Council President Carnival's comment, I would suggest we explore making
will.
that an option as well. Are we required to notice our bargaining units if we're going to change a provider, like the dental provider?
I would defer to Labor Council, but probably,
Okay.
because
So-
I know it's, assuming it's in the contract, it's
Right.
typically got to be equal or better.
So I think it's great that we're looking how to improve the quality of life of our employees here, and I applaud it. But I would assume there's some action that needs to become before the council in the future to approve these?
Past history, it is not, and I also want to state, this, there's no money coming from our members. This is a borough expense.
So it doesn't, if the coverage doesn't change, that's one thing, but if it's, the
Well-
coverage is,
The coverage apparently is increasing to the benefit of the employee for the same amount of
Yes,
money we
instead of
pay.
1,000, we're getting 1,250. That's a net positive.
but it covers the same services.
Same services.
Well, I don't know. We have to
Yeah.
pass resolutions for state health benefits program and all these other things. That's just my question. Do we have to, is the council required to do that by resolution, or is that?
If we're going to contract with another entity, yes.
Okay.
So Ed, my question would be, if we were to use MetLife with a $1,000 deductible instead of $1,250, would our costs increase?
Well, we looked at it as our costs were going down and the employees get a better benefit. We can go back and ask, if we leave it at the same amount, do we get a further, decrease?
Yeah, that would be my question.
Yeah, okay.
So at least so you have, compare apples to apples.
Yeah, so Ed, maybe you can just investigate that, present the governing body with your findings and a recommendation of what you would look for us to consider. But I appreciate you looking out for these things that are really, seem to be beneficial to our employees. It's something that's important to the entire council. Borough Attorney's report, Mr. Bailey?
Just briefly to follow up on the council president's comments, he provided comments to the draft previously circulated for the public places naming ordinances, and we're going to work on that, probably have a committee meeting on that, and look to introduce that at the next meeting. That's
Thank
all
you.
I have for this time, anyway.
Anybody else have a matter to come before the council before I entertain a motion to adjourn? That's your cue, guys.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, everybody.